Yellow Base, the auto parts database that will transform your workflow.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you've ever wrestled with finding the right auto part, maybe wading through different brands, numbers changing, it's a real headache.
Oh, absolutely. Frustrating is putting it mildly sometimes.
Right. So today we're digging into a possible way to simplify all that, Yellow Base. It's basically a tool that lets you build your own independent database for parts.
Interesting approach.
Yeah, and our mission here is just to understand how it works, how it tackles that complexity, and, what it could mean for actually managing all this information.
Definitely needed. The way things are now, it's
Really?
just scattered. Information is everywhere, different catalogs, aftermarket lists. It's messy.
Exactly. And Yellow Base, from what we've seen, seems to have this core idea of bringing it all together.
That's what's caught my eye, too. Their approach seems pretty fundamental.
Okay, so let's get into that. The core method they talk about is merging brand codes with the actual part number. Now, instinctively, you might think, well, isn't the part number enough?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Why add the brand code? What's the big advantage there?
Well, think about it this way. Manufacturer A might use a part number, say 12345.
Okay.
But manufacturer B might also use 12345 for a completely different part.
It happens. Right. So the number itself isn't always unique across the board.
Exactly. So by adding that brand code, which is unique to the manufacturer or supplier, right alongside their part number, well, then you get a truly unique fingerprint for that specific component.
Gotcha. So it removes the ambiguity. Let's take a spark plug example. Maybe brand X calls theirs SP101.
Okay.
But maybe supplier Y also uses SP101, but it's for, I don't know, an oil filter cap or something completely different.
Right, or even just a different spec spark plug.
Yeah, so Yellow Base would essentially tag it as brand X plus SP101 for the spark plug, making it totally distinct from brand Y plus SP101.
Precisely. That's the key. Gives you that necessary layer of precision.
Which I imagine cuts down on ordering the wrong thing, ending up with parts you can't use.
Oh, significantly. Fewer errors in ordering, better inventory control. It just makes the identification much more robust.
Okay, that makes sense. But Yellow Base apparently does more than just this merging, right? They also bring in alternative and previous part numbers.
Yes, and that's another really practical layer they've added.
So why is that info so useful? Let's start with the alternative numbers.
Okay, alternatives. So picture this. You need a specific part, the original equipment one, but maybe it's out of stock or on a long back order.
Happens all the time.
Right, or maybe there's an aftermarket part from a reputable brand that does the exact same job, perfectly compatible, Yellow Base, by linking these alternative compatible numbers in the same record.
Lets you see those options immediately.
Exactly. You can quickly spot substitutes that will work just fine. Think about a mechanic trying to get a car back on the road that can be a lifesaver. Minimizes downtime.
Yeah, I can see that. Instead of spending ages searching different catalogs or making calls trying to find something that works.
It's right there. A list of viable alternative. Huge time saver.
Okay, makes total sense. And then what about the previous numbers? Why track old, superseded numbers?
This is where it gets interesting. Especially for older vehicles or even just models that have been around a while. Parts get updated, redesigned.
And the numbers change.
And the numbers change. So imagine you're working on, say, a classic car. You look up a part in the original service manual.
And it gives you a number.
A number that, when you search for it today, leads nowhere. It's obsolete. Discontinued.
A dead end. Frustrating.
Super frustrating. But if your database, like Yellow Base aims to do, has tracked that history, if it knows that the old number ABC was replaced by DEF, which was maybe later replaced by XYZ.
And then you have a trail. You can follow it to find the current or at least a more recent number that might still be available.
Exactly. It bridges that gap between the old documentation and what's actually out there now. It might point you to new, old stock, a remanufactured version, or the current equivalent.
Wow, okay. That seems crucial for restoration work, or just keeping older, perfectly good vehicles running when the original specific part isn't made anymore.
Absolutely. It's about preserving that link to the vehicle's history and maintenance needs.
So we've got this foundation, merged codes for unique ID, plus alternatives for flexibility, and previous numbers for history. Yellow Base then says each record has accurate details for comprehensive and deep searches.
Right, that's the next level.
Now, the source material doesn't spell out every detail, but to really enable deep searches, what kind of details are we likely talking about here? What would you need?
Well, to make it truly powerful, you'd expect more than just numbers. You'd need physical specs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dimensions, weight, material composition.
Technical characteristics.
Yeah, technical characteristics. Things like voltage ratings for electrical parts, flow rates for pumps, thread sizes for fasteners.
Yeah.
That level of granularity.
And compatibility info, too, presumably. Like which exact makes, models, years, maybe even engine types the part fits.
Oh, absolutely essential. Without accurate compatibility data, the rest is much less useful. So, detailed specs and detailed application data.
Okay, so with that kind of detail, imagine you need, I don't know, a brake rotor. It needs to be a certain diameter, certain thickness, specific bolt pattern.
But you don't have the original part number handy.
Right. Instead of just guessing or scrolling through pictures, you could potentially punch in those actual physical parameters.
And the system could filter down to the exact matches across different brands based on those real-world characteristics.
It sounds like a huge step up, moving beyond just number lookup to actually searching by what the part is and what it does.
That's the promise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Much faster identification and probably a much lower chance of getting the wrong part delivered. Reducing errors saves time and money.
So let's pull this together. Yellowbase is offering a way to build an independent auto parts database. Key features are merging brand codes and part numbers for unique IDs,
Check.
adding alternative and previous numbers for flexibility and history, and including accurate, detailed specs and compatibility info to allow for really deep, specific searches.
That seems to be the core value proposition, yeah. It's aiming for a much more organized, comprehensive handle on all that data.
Which, let's face it, can be incredibly complex and fragmented right now.
Definitely. It's a real challenge in the industry.
So for you listening, maybe you run a repair shop, manage parts inventory, maybe you're a serious restorer. Think about this. What could having a single, unified, independent system like this mean for you? How much time could you save? How many errors could you avoid?
And think about the independence aspect, too. Not being solely reliant on maybe one manufacturer's proprietary system or having to cross-reference half a dozen different, sometimes conflicting sources.
Having your own structured data.
Yeah, empowering independent businesses, giving them more control. The potential is there to really streamline workflows. That level of accuracy and accessibility. It could fundamentally change how you find parts and keep vehicles maintained, couldn't it? Worth thinking about.